All right, let's get right into it. We're about to break down a massive shift that's happening in the construction industry. We're pitting the old school way of doing things against a totally new philosophy that's changing how we build, well, everything. So let's start with a question that I bet you've asked yourself before, maybe while you're stuck in traffic next to a construction site that seems to have been there forever. Why are so many projects late and way over budget? It's a frustration we all feel, but the answer goes way deeper than you might think. Okay, now this is where it gets kind of crazy. This shows us where the time actually goes on a job site. And honestly, the numbers are shocking. Only 32% of the time is spent on actual work. You know, the stuff that matters, building things. A whopping 29% of the time is just waiting. Waiting for materials, waiting for instructions, waiting for someone else to finish their job. That's nearly a third of the day just wasted. So, to figure out where all this waste comes from, we have to look at the traditional management model. You know, the one that's been the standard in construction for decades. It's the system most people know, but as we're about to see, it's also the root of the problem. The traditional way works like a really bad relay race. The architect does their part and just hands it off. Then the engineer does theirs and hands it off. Nobody's really talking to each other. This creates these silos where teams are totally isolated, which, as you can imagine, is a perfect recipe for mistakes and having to redo work. And there's almost zero focus on cutting out that waste we just talked about. And this image right here, it sums up the whole problem. Traditional management is a push system. Someone at the top makes a master plan of what they think should happen, and that plan gets pushed down to everyone else. The problem is that perfect plan almost never matches the messy reality of what's actually happening on the ground. But, you know, out of all that frustration, a totally new way of thinking has started to take over: lean construction. And listen, this isn't just a new set of tools. It's a whole different mindset, one that was actually borrowed from the incredibly efficient world of car manufacturing. Think Toyota. So here's the core idea, the real game changer. Lean construction is all about one thing: delivering the most possible value to the customer by relentlessly hunting down and getting rid of waste. The job site stops being just a site and starts being treated like a production line, where every single action is questioned. Does this add real value, or is it just getting in the way? And the impact of thinking this way? It's incredible. We're talking about projects getting delivered up to 25% faster. We're talking about saving a massive 18 to 30% on costs. And get this, generating almost a third less material waste. That's huge for the budget and for the planet. These aren't small improvements. This is a total transformation. Okay, so with results like that, let's put these two ways of working head to head. A little showdown to see just how different they really are. Let's break this down. See, the old way relies on these super rigid Gantt charts that try to predict the future from day one. Lean, on the other hand, uses flexible tools like the last planner system, where the actual people doing the work get to help plan it. Instead of siloed teams, Lean is all about integrated teams from the very beginning. Waste isn't an afterthought, it's the main focus. And the schedule, it's not carved in stone, it's alive, it adapts. And finally, Lean fully embraces technology, while the traditional model has been, let's say, a little slow on the uptake. So that's the big picture. But how does this all actually work on a real job site? What's in the Lean toolkit? It all boils down to these 5 key ideas. You define value, you map out the process to see the waste, you create a smooth workflow, and you're always trying to get better. But the secret sauce, the real magic bullet, is this concept of pull. Instead of pushing work on people based on a guess, you only do work when it's actually needed by the next person in line. Think about a restaurant kitchen. The chef doesn't cook your food until you order it. That's a pull system. Simple, but powerful. And this is so important to understand. Lean isn't a piece of software you can just install and poof, everything's better. It's a cultural shift. It's about changing the way people think, the way they work together, and that's where things get tricky. Because let's be real, the rewards are huge, but switching to Lean isn't always a walk in the park. There are some pretty big hurdles you've got to clear. And as you can see here, the biggest roadblocks have nothing to do with money or technology. They're all about people. We're talking about that deep resistance to change from guys who've been doing things one way for 30 years. It's about a lack of training and just that natural human instinct to stick with what's familiar. At the end of the day, when you boil it all down, it comes back to 2 things: people not wanting to change and the terrible communication that comes from decades of different teams not trusting each other. Which leads us to the billion-dollar question, right? How in the world do you break down those old habits? How do you build a new culture based on collaboration and trust when the old broken way is all anyone has ever known? Well, the answer, the thing that makes this whole revolution possible, is technology. Digital tools are the engine that can actually power the entire lean philosophy on a modern construction site. And it makes perfect sense when you stop and think about it. Lean needs real-time information, open communication, and total transparency to work. And what does technology provide? Exactly that. Digital platforms connect everyone, from the architect to the electrician, on a single source of truth. They smash those old silos and give teams the data they need to make smart decisions together and constantly improve. So that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. When you look at your projects, is your work site built for the future? Is it collaborative and driven by data? Or is it stuck in the past, trying to solve modern problems with outdated tools? If you're ready to build for the future, it's time to get rid of the chaos of spreadsheets and endless WhatsApp groups. You can digitalize your entire construction workflow with Lementai.com. It's built for this new collaborative way of working, and you can even start for free today. This explainer was brought to you by Lementai.